This myth that men aren't emotional is so absurd. Have you ever lived with a man and their moods? And the reason I thought of this today because I saw this. Whoever says that men are told to never express their emotions has clearly never lived with a male family member that thinks it's acceptable to punish his entire family with his bad mood. Now, I've never had a brother, so I'm assuming that is they're the same. But I have, my dad weaponized his moods. Literally, his moods set the tone for the whole family. If daddy's in a bad mood, everyone suffers, and the same thing with husbands. It's funny because I am so sensitive to men's bad moods that if my husband is in a bad mood, like for something legit, like we're allowed to have bad moods, but I have no tolerance for it. I go to my office, I just remove myself. I will not be around it. I have no tolerance for it because men, in my experience and especially a dating an abusive man, men have weaponized their moods to keep me walking on eggshells around them. And, and I've said this in other videos, most of the time, I believe it's for power. Those men, that it's like this whole thing, like this is why women don't, if a man is like only shows his true self around you, that's not good. We have this idea of like we're special because he has his outside face and then we get to see his real face. No, because the real face that you're going to see on a regular basis is a D-bag, right? He'll be out there having fun with all his friends. He'll never show his true self with his friends, but at home, he's a nightmare, right? Either he's, an angry man who weaponizes his moods to keep you on edge, which will literally destroy your immune system and your nervous system and will kill you slowly. So be careful. This is deadly, y'all. Or, because sometimes they do both, they'll cry all the time to get what they want. Like, men are so emotional. This idea that they're not is crazy. They're not allowed to be emotional at work. They're not allowed to be emotional in the outside world. But in the home, they're unbelievably emotional. And by emotional, I don't mean they're actually emotionally intelligent and can name their emotions and talk about their emotions and have conversations about their emotions that actually go somewhere. But in terms of being emotional, they're the most emotional. Every single night, my dad cried about how his dad didn't love him. Every single night, he'd get drunk and tell me, his daughter, who he left for a woman when I was 4, and then did all kinds of other crazy stuff to me, and never actually talked to me or wanted to hang out with me. But you know what he did? Every night, because this is before I was like, realized that I should just stop staying up and listening to this crap. But for a while, my sister was like, stop staying up and listening to him. He doesn't even remember what he's saying. You're wasting your time. He could talk to a wall at that point. I was like, oh yeah, I guess listening to a drunk man cry about how his dad doesn't love him is probably not healthy for me. It doesn't even help him. But every single night, this man cried about how his dad didn't love him. It was the same. It was like a script he was reading, and then on cue would cry, Why? The man never went to therapy, not a day in his life. Came from so much trauma, never dealt with it. Guess who deals with it when men won't heal? All of us! Usually women, usually their children. Their whole family deals with it. But in the outside world, they're just this cool, calm, collective man. The life of the party. The guy who volunteers at the, search and rescue. Such a giving person in the community. You know what I mean? Y'all, you do not know these men. The people who are in the home with these men, we know these men. You do not know these men, which is why it's even more tragic especially when a wife or a child or, partner, somebody is being abused by one of them. Nobody believes us because to the outside the world, they're just, what? No, not them. Yes, them. Now, a lot of men are not intentionally using their moods to control their family. They're just not being thoughtful and they need to work on that. And maybe they need to go to therapy so that their whole family doesn't pay the price of them refusing to deal with their emotions. But a lot of men are using their moods, weaponizing their moods to keep you in line. Because imagine the house is everything's fine. And then the moment dad walks in the door, don't you think that's about power? That's about dominance, y'all. That's about control. This same man will be out with his friends 5 minutes earlier, party, la, 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 and then immediately becomes a total jerk as soon as he comes home. It's not because he's just in a bad mood. It's very intentional, y'all. My husband and I have had a lot of talks about this. I'm not, You're allowed to be in bad moods, but the way that men do it, they need to be more thoughtful about it. Because even if they are just having a bad day, a lot of times men have no idea, or maybe they do, how much trauma women have from the emotions of men. How many of us have grew up walking on eggshells around daddy and then will not have hard conversations, not call a man on his stuff, not, just do everything to try to keep the peace, which actually will destroy a relationship because we'll avoid really hard conversations because we're so afraid of dealing with a man who weaponizes his moods and then that puts us in the place of completely submitting to his will all the time to avoid conflict. Because I swear to God, y'all, and I've read about this before, Virginia Woolf, she described it perfectly. Her dad was a king baby who his quiet rage sitting in the corner, man didn't have to say a word, not one word, hello. He could just be in the bad mood in the corner. Oh, look, his paws on my shoe. He could just be in a bad mood in the corner and it would completely ruin everyone's day because they're just on edge. On edge. That's what they do, y'all. If a man will not act in front of his best friend the way he acts in front of you, that's a red flag because you are going to get all of it, especially if he's not dealing with his crap. Therapy, men's group, something, anything. Oh, and this also goes for sons. Do not let these men move in with you. I don't care what their sob story is, they will ruin your life or even take it. Men in the home are the most dangerous thing to women and children on the planet. And I really wish we would start taking this stuff more seriously. And it doesn't even mean physical abuse. Emotional abuse, all this stuff is physically abusive. You just can't see it. Just because you can't see the bruise, you can't see all the harm it's doing on your nervous system, doesn't mean it's not physical abuse. Don't let them get away with this crap, y'all. At every turn, men will use anything. They will weaponize literally anything to keep women in line and keep their power. Because they will literally do anything but heal their own trauma. John, just heal your trauma.